Yes, everybody, it's that time of the week again, bitch. That's right. Welcome to another exciting episode of Old School New School Comedy Podcast. And I am your shit-talking host, Christy Miller. And with me this week, I forget to say, I always have to say this, that we're broadcasting sort of live from the comic strip live here in New York City. Shout out to Tommy and Jeannie for letting this happen every week. They're so good to me. And with me this week is part of the new school generation. We gotta have the new kids peeking, you gotta have tired of us old raggedy heads going, when I was your age, we didn't have lights on the stage. They had a candle and it burnt down and you had to get off, It's like Jesus came down and said, your time's up. So, but it's nice to have fresh faces, fresh outlooks, and a new experience, especially with this whole new tech age that we're living in since the 2010s, that comedy has taken a whole different turn, and I love getting the perspective of New Jack. So with me this week, she's 7 years in, baby's first 7. We love it. She is adorable, and I just met her, and I'm excited, and I love her energy, and I'm sure she's really funny. She plays all the clubs all over the city here in New York City. She's awesome. And give it up for Ariel Evans.
Thank you for having me.
I remembered your name! Yes! Oh, yes!
I'm very impressive.
I am the worst name person, and it's people I've known 20 years. I'm like, oh my God, who is that? Who is that? I saw a friend of mine the other day at the grocery store, and we used to, back when I had a day job at a gym, when I was a trainer, we worked together, we were homies. Yeah. Forever, for 18 years I've known him. And I'm sitting there looking at him going, oh my God, what's his name? And I still can't remember.
That's better than I always do. I think I know them, and they're like, oh, I have no idea who you are. I think it's worse to forget the name than be like, oh, hey, I know you. And I don't know who you are, crazy woman. Stop talking to me.
I always pull the fake one. Yeah. Hi! Oh my God, yes!
Exactly.
I have no clue. Friends of mine will be with me, and so I'm like, oh, Christy, I met you at a show. Do you remember? And I'm like, oh my God, that's right.
Oh my God,
how are you? And then my best friend will go, you don't even know who that was. I said, nope, not a clue.
Idea.
I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings.
Of course not.
I got to gain friends. I'm slacking on the followers. So you're 7 years in.
7 years, yes.
How are you liking it?
It depends on the day a lot.
Okay, she's a real comic.
Depends on the day.
She's a real comic.
It's weird because you fall in love with comedy so early on because it's so terrible, so you have to fall in love with it early on. And then I feel like I go through things where I'm like, I need comedy every single day and every moment. And there are times where I'm like, yeah, I could not do comedy today and be okay. So I love it. I'm happy to do it, but there's definitely, like any job, ups and downs.
Oh yeah, it's if you don't quit every day, you're not doing it.
Exactly.
And I quit after 28 years. I still quit every day. I go, that's it, I'm done. 2 hours later, oh, I have 3 spots this week.
Right? You're like, oh, I have that. After this show, I'm quitting. And you're like,
oh yeah, I'm headlining in Connecticut. Oh,
all right, after that, I'm quitting.
And then that's it. Yeah. One more headlining, and then that's it.
Goodbye show. Yeah, all the time.
All y'all bitches. But so you're 7 years in. So I always tell people, when New Jack's come to me for advice, because I'm 100. I always tell them, treat your comedy, because there's going to be ups and downs. And right now, you're towards the end of your first growth spurt.
Right.
The 5 to 7 years is the. Sorry, I'm just playing with your cord. No, it's okay. That's what I do. Like a mother. Oh, darling, you get a little thing. Is that, treat it like a baby. You gave birth to this comedy persona. And then, your first couple of years, it's really only a 2-year-old kid, if you think about it.
That's true. That's a good way to look at it.
And then when you hit the 5 to 7 year mark is when you hit your first growing pains. Because that's when, kids start complete sentences, forming their own thoughts. Yeah. They're starting to be independent. They can play with their toys by themselves. They don't have to be entertained 24/7. Right. So the jokes you wrote in the first few years are kind of baby talk. I'm a big girl now. I don't do those baby jokes. Yeah. And then because then you start going, hey, wait a minute, that joke used to work and it's not working anymore. It's because you're growing.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's a really cool feeling when you know things that always worked and then they stop and you're like, okay, something's changing, something's growing, I'm shedding layers. So I'm getting deeper and I'm getting more real. My the old comedy is just very shallow or very surface. Right. And then by the 10th year, you've figured out who you are on stage and what your point of view is. And then that first 10 years, out the door. So then you spend 10 to 20 writing for that new voice. So you're right on time if you're frustrated and like,
That's
I
great.
hate this. Yep.
That's such a great positive way to look at it. Like, because there's jokes all the time that work and stop working. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm just a terrible comic. I'm quitting right again. With quitting, but
Just look at it as perspective as a child.
exactly.
You know, you're growing 7-year-old kids. You know, they're not going to play with a 5-year-old kid or a 3-year-old. That's kids that like, I'm 7. Who the fuck are you?
Right?
You know? But it's like, you know, you just got to shed layers. Go, okay, what's going on? You could either revamp the joke or just scratch it all together and write something new and just keep throwing shit against the wall until it sticks.
Yeah.
But that's all part of finding your voice. So you're right on time.
Okay,
You
perfect.
got this.
Perfect.
You got it. But,
Next week I'm quitting again.
well, I'm quitting after this podcast, so I'm quitting right now.
Yeah. This is your farewell podcast.
But so being 7 years in, and are you from New York?
No, I'm from Seattle.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Wait, do you have very strong feelings about Seattle?
Oh, I love Seattle.
Okay, because people never have strong feelings about it. That's why I'm like, wait, you care about
Seattle's
it?
like a cleaner version of San Francisco.
Yes.
And I'm from San Francisco.
Okay, yes.
And in 1992, I almost moved to Seattle.
Really?
Because of the music boom, and I was in the music business at that time, in the industry, and had a lot of friends in the industry, and I'm like, oh, Seattle's so cool. And it's like, oh, it's just heroin, overcast, and suicide. Oh, this is great. And Nirvana, hi, I'm dead.
I didn't realize how sad I was until I moved out of Seattle. I was like, oh, look at the sunlight. I didn't even know the sun existed when I lived there.
Exactly. I mean, it's a beautiful city, but it's like, no.
Yeah.
It's like a walking lobotomy clinic.
100%.
But it's very pretty. So, well, welcome to New York.
Thank you.
And did stand-up bring you to New York?
A little bit of both. I've always wanted to live. So my parents are from New York City, and I've always wanted to live in New York. And so I just kind of did it, and I was like, all right. I started a little bit of stand-up in Seattle, kind of just, like you test the waters.
Yeah.
And then I moved to New York. I was like, all right, I'm going to get serious about stand-up, and I'm going to move to New York. So it's kind of both.
Good job.
Yeah.
No, that's awesome. But it's like Seattle and New York, they're so different.
Yes.
It's such a different thing. So how long have you lived here now? Like 7 years? Since
like 8 years.
8 years.
8
okay.
years, yeah.
Okay. So anything shock you about this lovely city compared to Seattle?
I think what always is mind-blowing to me is that kind of nothing bothers New Yorkers, and if we were in any other city, people are like, what the hell is going on here? Like,
oh yeah, because they don't see that shit, so it's like freaky. And like, here we're like, oh yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Like today I got off the train, and there was this homeless man walking in front of me, getting off the train, just like feet, barefoot thongs, or his flip-flops were like falling apart, not all there, and he was a disaster, and he was carrying a bag of stuff. I'm looking around like he was like, oh, I'm in the right neighborhood. I'm like, yeah, go, boo.
Exactly.
Do you? Yes.
Yeah,
And I'm like in my head going, it is the Upper East Side. That could be the new fashionista.
Right?
That's like the new runway look.
I honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if it was.
It was like vagabond realness. But he was just walking around like, but he wasn't like crazy or out of control. He was just a normal person who just happened to be down on his luck and smelled terrible. But poor guy. And I felt bad. I was like, I always try to say, please God bless them with one little thing today. Just let them have something.
Exactly.
But he walked around like it was not like a normal guy that's just like all crazy, but he was just normal. Like, oh, this is just my outfit.
Right.
I live in Soho. It's so funny. He's ready for Fashion Week. I loved him. He was everything. But so with stand-up, how is stand-up treating you? Besides, like,
I would say that's like, I'm trying to think of like how I would rate stand-up treating me. I would say great. Like, I always try to look at like, would I be happy or proud of where I am now if I look back at myself last year? Like, where I am in stand-up, if last year is what I wanted to accomplish.
Right.
And I feel like if every year I'm growing and I'm getting better, like, it's treating me great. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I would say, it's going great. I mean, depends on the day, depends on the week, but I love it,
Well, the thing is too, is like, the more you get into it, and like, I'm turning 28 in December for stand-up, and I think I'm in love with it now more than when I started. And I think that also has to come with that whole 10,000 hours thing.
Totally.
So I'm getting almost 30,000 hours. So it's like, oh yeah, it's easy.
Right.
And it's fun, but I also love the craft. That's what got me, because I wanted to do this since I was like 5 or 6 years old.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I knew I wanted to do this.
That's wild.
But I thought, oh, that's only for cool people. That's special people.
Yeah.
And then when I moved to LA with my best friend, she's like, if you don't go to the Comedy Store and get on stage, I'm going to punch you in the throat. And I'm like, well, since you're so sweet and charming, you're such my best friend. You'll just punch me in the throat. But so I went to I said, all right, I'm going to go to the Comedy Store. And this is back in 1995. So I'm going to go to the Comedy Store. I'm going to apply for a job as a waitress.
Okay.
And if I get this job, that means I'm supposed to be in that building.
Right.
And learning and watching. And if I don't get the job, that means I'm not supposed to be there. So I walked in, and 30 seconds later, I had the job. So I was like, okay, I guess I'm supposed to be here. And it was an amazing experience. I was there for like 10 years, from 95 to 05, and then I came here. But it was probably the best growing up in comedy that you could ask for.
It's hard. It was always hard to explain to non-comedians like how addictive and rewarding comedy can be at times. Like, you don't understand it until you try it.
Yeah. Like when I started, it's always that empty hole in our soul because nobody loves us. We're losers. Love me. Laugh. We're like so addicted to that outside adoration. And then over the years, as I've grown, I'm 53 now. So, I've done a lot of work on myself and all this bullshit and got over my crap and worked through crap in life. And back then I used to do it because I needed it. Now I do it because there's nothing more rewarding than to see a group of people forgetting all the bullshit outside.
Yeah.
Anything that's stressing them out, anything that's just bogging them down or that they're dreading, just to give them like a spa day for their brain for an hour.
Totally.
And they could just laugh and relax. And then that way all those, endorphins and shit are going. That way that when they go outside back into the real world, that maybe, just maybe,
slightly,
they'll have a better grasp at how to handle what's happening. Because they're laughing and getting all those endorphin rushes and all that shit. And, it kind of helps handle things, because when you're stressed and anxious, it makes things worse because you're only hurting yourself.
Yeah.
And so maybe like, if they're laughing and having a good time, then going home to deal with their shit, it'll be a little easier to handle.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's that too, and just providing people with a different perspective. That's funny sometimes. Like, I didn't look at it that way, but that was a hilarious way to look at it. It's like,
it's teaching people. Yeah. It's opening people's minds.
Totally.
And with my comedy, it's more of like, did she just fucking say that?
Right.
Yeah, I did, because it's so absurd and ridiculous. Like, listen to how dumb this sounds. This is how you sound.
Right.
And do you see how absurd? Like, it's dumb, so shut up, and laugh. Like, lighten up. It's just comedy.
Right, exactly.
You gotta laugh. Life is short. We're all gonna go in the same way. We're going out the same way in a box,
Right.
And it's just like, and what's going on in the world now, which is crazy. It's just like, it's comedies now. It always has been, but now with the internet, and the tech age that you guys are coming up in, it's even more so in your face about all the cancel culture, because like Andrew Dice Clay was one of the first comics to get canceled. Right. Like back in the late 80s, early 90s. And he got blacklisted in Hollywood, and that's when I met him, was his downfall. And then he brought back up. He's amazing. Yeah. He's brilliant. And now with social media, it's so easy to go on and just attack people and destroy them. And it's like, wow, you guys take this shit way too serious. Somebody's not dealing with their own shit. Hello. Like this whole Matt Rife thing. Do you like Matt Rife?
I think he's funny. I wouldn't say like I follow him actively, but I think he's funny. I don't.
You know what? I mean, I think his crowd work is good. He's created his own fan base. Yeah. He built that all himself.
I think that's great for him.
And I think the people hating on him are just mad because they don't have that.
Totally, yeah.
This dude's making $15 million a year.
Jealous, yeah.
He's selling out theaters with $800 tickets. So what if his comedy sucks? It's not for you.
Right, exactly.
You're not paying. I'm not paying. I'm not a fan, but I shout out to him like, good for him. He figured it out. He figured it out and made it.
Yeah.
Who cares? Why don't you go, hey, how did he do it? And maybe I should try a couple of those tips that he gives out. and they're like all destroying his Netflix special, especially for the opening joke. Did you hear it?
I did not hear, but I heard about it, which is crazy.
Right? It's such a hack premise. And I posted on social media when everybody's freaking out, he's a woman abuser, he's glorifying domestic violence. I'm like, oh God, here we go. He's not. I don't even think he can spell domestic violence, let alone just glorify it.
Right.
It's just, we talk about things that are uncomfortable and make jokes about it to process it, to be able to go, okay, now we're talking about it. It's in conversation. We're not hiding from it. We're not ignoring it. We're not fearing it. We're talking about it. Now maybe we can find a solution.
Right, 100%.
And that's what comedy's for. It's very healing. And what he said, because I said that joke in 2019, because I was assaulted on the R train. I got knocked the fuck out.
Oh, damn.
So I came out of the hospital. I remember Aaron Berg calls me. He goes, are you still in the hospital? And I'm like, I just got out about 2 hours ago. He goes, you want to come in tonight and go on stage and talk about it? And I said, fuck yeah, I do. Fuck yeah, dude. Because that's, for me, that's cathartic for me. I have to make fun of crazy shit that happens to me. Or whatever's happening, I have to, because it's the way I process trauma is by laughing about it so I can process it, accept it, say it out loud, and then be able to deal with it. Yeah. And so I went on stage and I said that it was just brutal. It was brutal. And I just went on stage and said, this is what happens when you don't make your man sandwich fast enough. And the crowd just went, oh my God, it just fell out. And I go, yeah, it's like I still got one shot at it to get it right. And we were dying and I was just roasting myself, and the whole idea of like, yeah, this is, it's just like making light. I'm not making light of domestic violence. I'm making light of my situation, but also bringing up, hey, we need to talk about this.
Like
shit.
This happens. It's real. Like it happened to me. Yeah, it happened to me. Yeah,
I'm a woman. I got attacked on the train because I was a woman and I looked like an easy target. Yeah. And boom, and because he was mentally ill, he didn't know where the fuck he was. Right. And it is what it is. But to not talk about it. No, that's bad. Then it makes it worse.
I agree. I also feel like sometimes audience, they get nervous about laughing at stuff. I'm always like, if I'm saying it on stage, then I want you to laugh at it. Yeah. Like sometimes I get like, oh, can I laugh at this? I was like, yes, if I'm saying it, I want you to laugh. That's the intention for you to laugh right now.
Yeah, and so do you find, that's a great thing to bring up, because I was just going to ask you that. Do you have jokes or anything that you've done that people have gone, oh no, that's terrible, you're bad? Yeah,
I mean, not like bad, people get nervous to laugh at it. Okay. People think it's like too, which is when we were talking about Seattle, but Seattle has a thing. Like, I love Seattle, okay, don't Seattle come for me. Me too. But most times I will shit on Seattle for like all their flaws. And people in Seattle won't laugh at it. I'm like, I grew up here. Like, I know what this is like. Like, I experienced it. Like, I want you to laugh at it. It's real.
And well, for me, I find that people that don't want to laugh or they get uptight, I'm talking about you.
Right, exactly.
So, I used to open for Paul Mooney. That's why I moved to New York, because he's like my dad. Yeah. So, I'd, feature, get off stage, and then he'd go on, and I'd sit on the side or in the back to watch him. And one night, I was sitting on the side at Caroline's against the wall, and it's packed, and Mooney's going in, doing Mooney, just being Paul Mooney. And I'm screaming, because I know his whole act by heart. I know every joke he's ever written, because I've been around. He was like my dad, and I work with him every fucking night. So, but it's still the way he's just brilliant, and I would die laughing every time. And I remember this white couple turned and looked at me, like, what are you laughing at? Right. And I go, he ain't talking about me.
Right, exactly. If you're offended, he's talking about you.
Right. He ain't talking about me. Exactly. And it was so funny. And I told him that. He goes, homie, you're too funny. And but it's so funny. I always find the ones that get uptight and offended are exactly who I'm talking about. Also, I do a lot of shows, when I go on the road, and I am 53. I'm in shape. I lift weights. I don't have kids. I never got married because I just enjoy life. Right. I have somebody now, but who knows what's going to happen with that? Who knows? I think it's permanent, but who knows? You don't know nowadays. And it's just like I just lived life on my own terms. Right, totally. And I always followed my heart. And I live free. And I try to And that's one of the things I like to, be crazy on stage and open and free and talk about whatever. And Mooney used to always say they're going to want to lynch you, homie.
Yeah.
Because you have a freedom up there that none of these other comics have.
Right.
And I start seeing it. I'm like, okay, you're telling on yourself. And I try to live freely, especially for women.
Oh, yeah.
And women comics and for women in the audience. You don't have to succumb to the society stereotypes. Yeah. Just because you're a certain age doesn't mean you have to forget it, I'm done, give up.
Yeah.
Okay, I just have to settle. No, you don't.
No, absolutely not.
There's a whole world out there. It's your life. You live it to the fullest. So I try to show women by being, they always say, be the change you want to see. So I try to be the change I want to see, because I want to see all these women just come up and be empowered and just live happy in their best lives. And there's sometimes those women that are my age and they look way older than me, and they're bitter, and they will clutch their purse.
Yeah.
And
I already knew
I was hoping you knew. And I figured you would. And it's so funny because then it's like they get really upset and offended and complain.
Yeah.
Even though the rest of the audience. And so one of my favorite things is when someone doesn't. I love hecklers. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I don't mind them.
I have fun with them because I usually use the audience to segue into jokes.
Right, exactly.
So it personalizes the show and it makes it more fun for me too. So when if someone's heckling or acting like that, I will build them up with so much power and build them and make them the hero as I'm destroying them at the same time.
Right.
So there's no receipts. So they can't say I was mean to you. And it's just so funny to watch. I just love the reactions when people don't like me. Oh, I love it.
It goes back to what we were saying earlier. It's like, I'm like, oh yeah, you're right, you shouldn't be laughing. This is a true statement I'm making right now. You say, don't laugh. I'm like, oh yeah, you're right, it's a true statement. It's not a funny joke. To throw it back on them as if they think I'm being real. You know what I mean? It's
exactly. If they're not laughing and it gets too real for them, especially for example, the Seattle stuff.
Yeah.
Just be like, oh, too soon?
Yeah, exactly. I'm like,
is this getting too real for you?
Yeah. And then, I'm like, all right.
I'm not going to point fingers, but
right?
Oh, my nose itches. It's just have fun with them.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
really just have fun with them not reacting. That's my favorite thing.
Yeah.
I always tell comics, if someone's not reacting, just have fun with it. Or ignore them completely and play to the tables that love you.
Exactly. I mean, as a comedian, you always see that one person that's not laughing. You have to try to distract them. But all right, the one person that's having fun, not every person.
That's not my problem.
Right. Not every person in any room is going to like you. So.
No, I always do this. That's not a me problem.
Right,
that's a you problem.
exactly.
Because all these guys love it and you're the only one.
Yeah,
that's a you problem.
Exactly.
That is a you problem, bitch. And I have fun with them.
Right.
I'm never upset.
No.
I'm not an angry person. I've already worked through all that in my 20s and 30s. I'm not angry. I love life. I want us all to win. I want everybody at the table eating with me because there's nothing better than being surrounded by great people at the dinner table and everybody's fed.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? So that's just how I feel about it. That's probably why I'm not successful, because I'm not an asshole. I sucked all the wrong dick, girl. That's just what I'm trying to tell you.
That's the real truth right there.
That is a read, honey. But so we're in New York City now. Where is your favorite place to perform? Do you have any favorites?
I don't know if I have a favorite. Obviously, the comic strip is amazing. Little plug for them.
Nice save.
Favorite's hard. I think I like performing as much as I shit on Seattle. I like performing back home in Seattle, just because all my friends and family come see me. But I don't. New York, favorite venue.
It's okay. You don't have to.
Yeah, I don't have one.
Was mine. I mean, besides here, because I do a lot of stuff here. I mean, Jeannie and Tom, I recorded my album here. Really Yours on Apple, iTunes, Spotify, Amazon Music, wherever you download.
I can also just mail you a copy, send me your address.
Right? Send me your address at $88. Yeah. It's only $9.99 on iTunes. Send me $88 because I'm just a whore. But I used to do a monthly here. I do my podcast here. I did my album here. This is one of the... Because Dangerfields is reopening. And But this has like been my home. But my old home was Caroline's on Broadway.
Nice, yeah.
So, and I miss
Great
her.
club.
She'll be back.
Yeah, I hope so.
She's been looking for a spot since they closed.
Okay, good. I just haven't heard anything, but that's good.
I still talk to Greg and all them.
Oh, nice.
Oh yeah, I talk to the crew.
I always think like when you ask me, I was trying to think like what my favorite venue is, but like every show I think about, it usually just the audience that was in the show. I'm like, oh, that was like a great show because we have a great audience there, but it wasn't necessarily the venue itself.
Absolutely, absolutely. I have favorites everywhere. Like, I have favorite nights, favorite audiences, and I also have clubs where I just feel warm. Like when I walk in, I feel, oh yeah. It's a welcoming club. I feel hugged. Like when I come in the Strip, here at the Strip, I always feel like, oh, I'm home.
Right.
When I go to other clubs that will remain nameless at the stand, and I always feel like it's like, how are you? It's like Mean Girls. You know what I mean? It's like, ew, like, oh shit. I mean, God, she only has 3,500 followers. You don't like her. She's
gross.
Old. It's disgusting. But it's like places like that just feel stuffy. Mm-hmm. And also my favorite rooms too are the independent rooms.
Yeah,
that
there
aren't
are some great
necessarily clubs, or like either music clubs or like underground speakeasies.
Yeah.
Because to me, that's where the magic happens. Because that's like an off-beaten path.
Right.
And that's where you find the salt of the earth.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
absolutely.
It's like a road gig, but it's not.
Yeah.
Because I love going on the road because I love the audiences out there because they want to see a show.
Oh, they came ready to laugh. Yeah.
Yeah, they're ready to go, and this is what they're living for because there's not much out there. So it's like a big deal, and it's so much fun, and the love you get on the road is amazing. So.
Yeah, I just got back from last weekend. I was in Wildwood, New Jersey, and it wasn't a big audience, but again, they just came ready to laugh, and I had a great time. Yeah, I was like, oh my god, I love it. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's just I've done shows that restaurants have built a stage in New Jersey, and they do music, and they've come out. They've actually said, here, we'll pay you to come do an hour.
Right.
Can you please come to our place and do a show?
Right.
Of course I will.
Yeah.
I'm a whore. You pay me, and I get to rip people to shreds. Well, sign my big ass up, honey. I'll go anywhere for money and jokes. I'm easy, you guys. You hear that? Book me. But and that was probably one of the funnest shows I've done in my career, and it was sold out. And it was like an intimate thing. It was like a private thing, but it wasn't private.
Right.
It was, and it was so much fun. And it's like those are the off-beaten path, little independent things that I love. And it's just like, these are the real people in the world that and I'm like, these are the people that buy your records. These are the people that come to your shows, not the city folks. We're just gonna go.
Yeah, there's so many people outside the city that are so thirsty for comedy because they don't have it normally in their neighborhood. So they will have these like independent pop-up shows, and like, we finally got comedy here.
Yeah, like I did a show up in Rensselaer, which is on the other side of the water from Albany.
Okay.
In a restaurant, they had an event space upstairs that they would do events. Mm-hmm. And so they wanted to start booking comedy because there's no scene up there. Mm-hmm. And even the guy that owned the place said, I even go to the mics to see if I can find comics and they suck. I said, well, it's Rensselaer, honey.
Yeah.
It's Albany. It's not a big comedy scene. And it's hard for them to have comedy up there because they can't survive. So pop-up shows make more sense to book people from. That's why the Funny Bone there in the mall in Albany does well because they do contracted shows. But it's just on the, you know what I mean? It's not like they have like a whole lineup like the comic strip or the stand or like a city club has. Yeah. Because they don't have the comics up there. And I'm like, well, just call a bitch. I will take the train.
Exactly.
But it's those places like that are comedy deserts.
Right. Yeah.
And it's like, so you try to like pitch your show to them, like, hey, how about we do a comedy night? And then those are the ones that are more apt to take a chance if they don't know who you are than say the big name clubs, because they're just right now. What I've been finding, being an old head and not a TikTok kid, that I'm having a harder time getting booked because I'm not a household name.
Right.
And I don't have 10 million followers.
Right.
and they don't even care if they're good comics as long as they think, oh, they have followers, they'll put butts in seats.
Right. That's what, the bottom line is what they're thinking about.
Do you have that? Have you found that to be an issue?
I have seen that a lot. I don't know if I've just been on shows with people that I'm like, oh, how did you get on this show? Interesting. And then I will be told that they are, TikTok or Instagram famous or whatever. And I'm like, okay, that makes sense. But yeah, I've seen that around. And I don't have 10 million followers. Maybe after this podcast I will.
You have 10,000,001. But yeah, it's I've had people go, hey, you want a feature for this person? Who?
Right, exactly.
Who?
Yeah.
Oh, they're TikTok. Oh, okay. You know what? Yeah, I'll do it. And just bury them. And then I pull the share. Follow this, you bitches. And then they die. Yeah. But it's fun to go on in front of one of those TikTok famous people.
Yeah.
And they always go, how long you been doing stand-up? I go, oh, I think this is my 6th show. Fuck,
that's so, and just blow their mind, like, she's so good for 6 shows.
So good. I go, I know.
Yeah.
I mean, 6 show today. Yeah. My bad. I should have used my words correctly. Use your words. But it's just like, it's so, but and I was telling other buddies of mine that are like 30 and up in the game too, and it's like, we all make our living on the road.
Right.
So they're not necessarily going to be household names, but we kill it on the road.
Absolutely.
And, whatchamacallit, I asked them, I said, I go, remember when we went through this in 2008, 2009 with Ashton Kutcher? When he got 1 million followers on Twitter, and that was unheard of back then.
Oh, yeah,
and then the comedy club switched to the comics have to have followers. And then, whatever. And then that bombed because people bought followers.
Right.
And now there's actual followers, and it's so funny, but it's like, I try to explain to people, I said, that's cute, you get your thumb on the pulse of the algorithm comedian, but you do realize that all those people that follow that person do not live in New York City.
Right.
And 9 times out of 10, they're 13-year-old kids. Are they really buying tickets to the clubs? Good luck to you. I miss the days of booking comics because they were good.
Yeah.
And then you put on a killer show, the word gets out. And that's what helps your business, because that's what, that's what Mitzi would do at the comedy store.
Mm-hmm.
Mitzi Shore, fuck them. Damn, best. It's good. I miss her. But yeah, that's, I know I'm working on something coming in the spring to do like a monthly, like heavy hitter show with all of us that are 20, 30, 40 years in.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That can't work the clubs, because I've been told I'm too old.
Okay.
Yeah. No, you're too old. You're not. You haven't made it yet. You're never gonna make it. So why are we gonna waste time with you? We're gonna go with this guy who doesn't even have 8 minutes, and he may have a shot at making it.
Yeah.
So we're gonna follow him instead. We're gonna book him. Oh yeah, it's brutal. So I'm like, all right. So then I turn into the Joker. Wait till they get a load of me. And it's like, but I want to bring the heavy hitters back. So one of the club owners called me and said, hey, I heard you wanted to do a show. Mm-hmm. I love the idea. So tell me when. So I said, yeah, like after Valentine's Day. That way I can get everybody's schedules, because we're all booked out 6 months to a year.
Right, because you guys are professional working comedians. Yeah.
Except me, because I'm a loser. I booked 6 days out. But yeah, so that'll be a fun show for all the old guys that can't. They don't want us to showcase. Like, dude, you see me. You've known me for 20 years.
Right.
Yeah, you're a little old. You're a little long in the tooth. So
it's crazy.
So just keep telling people, even when you're 20 years in, just tell them you're 7 years in.
Okay. Always be 7 years
Always
in.
be 7. Always be 7. I was like, I don't know, you might not know him. There was a comic in LA in the 90s named Ant. He's gay, he's funny, he's hilarious. He used to tell people, he'd been in the game like 20-something years. He was, I'm 8 years in. And I used to go, no, you're not, bro. And now thinking back on it, like, Ant had him.
He was on to something.
He was way ahead of us. He was like a premonition guy or something, because he saw the future. Dude, Ant, I'm so sorry that I always made fun of you for saying that. I apologize, and I'm going to be like you now. Just always tell them you're 8 years, 7 years in. And then they think, oh, you still have a shot.
Right.
It's like, oh, God, I can't. It's so funny, the ageism in this thing.
Yeah,
Do you mind me asking how old you are? It's hard to tell. You have beautiful black skin.
I was like, 'cause I'm black, that's why it's hard to
It is
tell.
hard to tell.
It's hard to tell for me sometimes. I'm like, who is that? Is that my grandma or like my cousin? Like, I can't tell. I am about to turn 35.
She's just a baby. She's a baby. I thought she was in her like late 20s.
Yeah. No.
Good for you.
Thank you.
Hang on to that 35, honey.
Yeah.
And you'll look that way too.
Right. And then I think we come 90 years old and just crash completely.
Yep.
All my skin
You and
starts
Chinese
sinking.
people,
Yeah.
you wake up 100.
Yeah, and it's like everything
wow.
goes. Yeah.
It's fun, like when I do black rooms, which I do. I love. Oh, it's my favorite. It's my people. And when they're like, "Oh, girl, you look good for 53," and I said, "Honey, because black don't crack, bitch." You know? And I make, and like, yeah, I should be in the Smithsonian.
Right.
A white woman without plastic surgery.
Impressive.
Right. She's a unicorn. Let's study her. But yeah, it's so much fun. So with that, like, what is like? I like to talk to, especially with young comics.
Yeah.
Like, everybody has a way of writing.
Right.
Like what works for you, what doesn't work, or how is writing for you? What is your style of writing?
It's different. Usually, I have to like every once in a while, which I'll get amazing jokes. Something will just hit you. You know, like,
Yep.
oh my god, that's a
Those are
funny
the
joke.
best.
I'm like laying in bed or like write it down real quick. But I try to like dedicate time, at least every day, sometimes every other day, to like sit down and write, even if it's just for 15 minutes, an hour. You know.
Good.
But just force myself to do it and write. That's probably like my biggest writing thing, yeah. And then something hits me, you know, like I'll be on stage and I'm like, oh, that was funny when I said that, because you always always record yourself.
Always
and so
record. Kids, always record your sets.
Exactly. So like, yeah, and I'm like, all right, I'm gonna use that from now on. So those are, I guess, my main writing things. But yeah.
Oh, that's good. I write a lot in the shower.
Oh.
Because I'm not distracted by anything and there's nothing to think about. And then it just, all these ideas come and then I have to remember to get out and but I also come up with ideas because I don't write. Mm-hmm. I can't. My brain moves too fast and I'm just trying to get to the punch.
Oh yeah.
So I write outlines and bullet points. You know, like an outline, like what the joke is, and then bullet points of like beginning, middle, end kind of thing of like where it's gonna go.
I'm the opposite. I gotta write every word out. I'm like, all right. I
used to be so jealous because that's such a discipline that I don't have. And then I go, well, that might be why you're not anywhere. Okay. Yeah, that's good. But I write on stage.
Yeah,
I have an idea in my head and I just let out whatever comes out.
I've always been jealous of that. I just can't. I mean, obviously something funny happens in the moment, but like I've just never been able to write on stage.
Yeah, but that's for me because like one of my things when in the 90s was I'm like, I want to be a better joke writer.
Right.
I want to be a better writer. So I took the Groundlings and I went through the Groundlings and I went through level 2. And the teacher goes, don't waste your time here. You're better than this place. I'm like, oh, that was so sweet. I'm like, oh, that's her nice way of telling me you suck and get out. You're never going to be in the theater company. But I really didn't want to be in the theater.
Right.
I just wanted to be a better joke writer. And the thing was trust your gut. Mm-hmm. You know, the first thing that pops out, don't think about what you're going to say. Just let it out. And so I was able to practice that. And I wanted that for writing and also for hecklers. If someone threw something at me, I wanted to be able to think on my feet. So I went through the Groundlings to learn how to, you know, really develop that muscle and trust myself and know that it's like funny versus don't hold back. You know, now I better not, you know.
Right, totally.
Do you have anything that you ever think like, oh, I shouldn't talk about that, I shouldn't say that?
No, I always try to be true to myself and true to like how I would talk in my normal life. Obviously make it funny. I was like, I'm not gonna go on stage and I don't know, be like super explicit and talk about all this sex. That's like not how I am as a normal person.
Of course.
And so that's why I would say nothing's off limits to me, but everything I want to feel like my authentic self.
Yes.
That's what I would say. So like there are things I won't say on stage, but it's not because I feel restricted.
Okay,
it just doesn't feel like me.
Yeah, no, and I've had jokes that I've written. I'm like, yeah, that's not a me joke.
Right, exactly.
This joke goes to this comic, so I'll call them up. Hey, I wrote a joke. It's not me, but it had your face on it. So I give it to them. I used to do that with Mooney all the time. I would come up with crazy shit. I'm like, homie, here's one. Oh, I'm stealing that. I'm like, it's yours.
Yeah, it's for you.
I would never talk like that. It's not who I am. Yeah. So it's like, I loved writing for Paul. I loved giving him jokes and shit like that. It was so much fun. But so before, I always like to wrap up the show with 2 questions because they're fun and these are things that no one ever asks.
Right.
And we're comics. We love comedy. We are comedy, and we're stupid. So I always ask this one because it always tells me like who you're into and like what it's fun. It's just a fun thing because no one's ever thought of it because why would they? And is there a bit a comic has done that made you go, God damn, that was brilliant. I wish I had written that.
Yeah. Excuse me. I just lost my voice completely. I got so worked up over this question.
I'm so excited to talk about.
I definitely have seen jokes. I'm like, damn, that was like really fucking funny. And like you're super jealous. I'm thinking of like, I love like Marina Franklin, and I feel like I have like, I'm not saying I'm as good a comedian as her, but like a similar style. And sometimes I'll hear like a premise that like was similar to mine. I'm like, damn, she just did that way better than me. And so there's definitely jokes like that.
Yeah, I have that with Bill Burr.
Yeah.
And I used to know him back in the day when we all started. He doesn't know me. He's a sweetheart. But there would be jokes I would write, especially like during lockdown. And I wrote this joke and I called my best friend Teddy Smith. I'm like, oh my God, this is so good. And he goes, oh homie, that's funny, that's fucking hilarious. Write it down. I said, I did. And all of a sudden I had this nagging feeling, watch Paper Tiger. I'm like, all right, I'll watch Paper Tiger. And I watch it, and there's the joke, word for fucking word. And I'm like, no. And then but I always do that and go, well, great minds think alike.
Right, exactly. It's always like a compliment to you if you're like,
I'm on the right path.
Right.
And I don't even remember what the joke was anymore because I tore up the paper.
Right, you just forget about it. You're like, all right, I'm not doing that anymore.
I don't even care about it because there's so many things. That's one thing I learned working with Mooney's, that there's always something else new.
Totally.
Because they stole from him all the time.
Yeah.
But that's hilarious. No, Marina's great.
Yeah.
She's wonderful.
And I was thinking about this too, like, it's not my style because it's not my style of how I do comedy, but Norm Macdonald was always so funny to me.
He's
and
brilliant.
I'm like, oh my God, the way he commits to the bits that he does, I'm like, I wish I had that. It's like so good.
When he starts to tell a story and then it goes off on a tangent,
I love it.
Other tangent, and then you're like, where is he going? And then he wraps it, bam, punches you right in the face. He's one of the greatest.
He was one of my favorite comedians. But yeah, he's so good at it.
Funny. Oh, I love it. Yeah. That's good. Yeah. It's almost like Tom Petty.
Right. You think he's like this rambling drunk guy. Yeah. Then all of a sudden he just hits you again with
he just punches you right in the face. He's like headbutts you here.
Yeah. Here's the joke.
Those bits are hilarious.
Yeah.
Now, being an old head that I am.
Yes.
Comics sitting around like at the Comedy Store or in green rooms and stuff. You always try to make each other laugh with stupid shit.
Yeah.
I love street jokes. And Paul Mooney used to close his sets every night. That was his closer, was like 4 or 5 street jokes.
Yeah.
But he would Mooney-ize them.
Right.
And make them his, even though you knew they were street jokes.
Yeah.
But that's his closer. And and he would destroy me every time. Do you have a go-to street joke that you tell?
I do not, but I think they're hilarious. I love when people will roast people and they're just like say the most basic things. Like, look at this guy over here in this blue hoodie. And you know what I mean? Like just descriptive and just roasting them for whatever they're wearing. I think it's so funny because we're like, he's just wearing a normal outfit, but just roasting him. So, and I love a good Yo Mama joke. Always love those.
Oh, the dozens is the best. Oh yeah.
So,
Mom was so fat, she played hopscotch like this. New York, Chicago, Idaho, California.
I was trying to think of, what's the one, it's like she sat on a rainbow and Skittles popped out, right? There's that one. So just like those silly jokes are just so funny to me.
Yeah, and that's the best part of them. And there's millions of them. Like I always tell people, one of my favorites is there's a priest and a rabbi sitting in Central Park on a bench. And this right then and there, this 12-year-old kid goes skateboarding by, and the priest goes, man, I sure like to fuck him. And the rabbi looks at him and goes, out of what? No, see, that's stupid.
It's it makes me laugh every time.
It's so dumb, it's hilarious. So tell everybody where they can find you on the socials and if you have any shows coming up. Right?
Absolutely. So you can check me out on Instagram, Ariel Diamond Evans 8, Facebook, Ariel Diamond 8, Twitter, Ariel Diamond 8. Next Saturday, I'll be at my friend Kyle Lewis's show at the Stand at 6 o'clock on Saturday the 2nd. I think that's the 2nd. Yes.
I think it is.
I think it is.
Oh, for shits and giggles, it is.
Yes. And then on my website, arielevanscomedy.com.
Nice.
Yeah.
Awesome. I'm so glad to meet you.
It's great.
You're so adorable.
Thank you.
I like to meet new people. And you know me, you can follow me everywhere at Christy Miller Comedy. And you can follow this show on Instagram as well at Old Skool New Skool Comedy. And if you love me, please follow. If you hate me, I'm Kathy Griffin. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and share the show. We love you. See you next week.